Good evening, citizens. Apparently, we're starting a minute early, but I'm devoid, and this is Revathius, and welcome to Redacted. This is a live podcast where we talk about Star Citizen and its development. And we've already got some technical difficulties as Rev has no audio. So I'm just going to reiterate what he said as he fixes that. We are going to talk today about what was going to be upcoming 322 patch, but as of about 3 hours ago, it's live. So today's just going to be a discussion about the new features in 322, what's upcoming in the .x patches, things that people have been looking forward to. He's still fixing his audio, but I
Yeah,
have the patch notes up right here.
I'm good.
So,
No
oh, you're
idea,
good.
no idea what happened, but that was weird.
Perfect. Well, cool. 322. This is a patch that I'm a little bit excited for, if for no other reason that it gets us one step closer to Pyro and 4.0. But Rev, you're less than enthusiastic about this
Eh,
patch.
it's it's a bit of a meh patch to me. I mean, I got on it. I played it for I don't know about an hour or so. At this point, it's all right. It's just the things that are being offered in this patch are nice.
Yeah,
They're just
Daddy
not
got me
things.
this shirt.
Yeah, they're just not things that I'm particularly hyped for. Right. So I mean, we got the Suntoki alien ship, big whoop. Right. We got
I agree with that sentiment. Yeah, not a
we
fan of
we
the alien
we got
ships.
floppy hair. Ooh, that's great.
I kind of like
I
that.
I don't give half a shit about floppy hair. New hairstyles, beards. Maybe I would be more in for that. And if theoretically coming in the first half of next year. But floppy hair, man, I don't care. It's still a stupid Karen. There's still an ugly mohawk. It's the same hairstyles. They're just
Well, a
floppy
lot of
now.
them are. There are new ones though. There's now the feminine hairstyles too, which a lot of people have been asking for a long time. We've got like the buns and the ponytails and shit that have all been added in, as well as like the cornrows and the dreads that have been added in. Pretty sure those are in,
Yep.
right?
Well, I don't think so.
Rev, can you turn me up a little bit?
Dude, you're already bumping into the yellow.
Well, here I'll turn my gain up a little bit. Oh, he
So
did. Okay, cool. We'll leave it. We'll leave it.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so it's not just a matter of hair moving around, but yeah, there's a lot of different hairstyles now too. Pretty big for customization.
yeah.
Uh,
No, there is one that I got a hold of that actually I think I kind of like. I haven't been able to do as much with it as I was wanting to in the short amount of time we had before the stream, and that's the interactable containers.
yes,
So the one thing,
interactable
yeah.
containers.
So the one thing I did is I on my I went and got an 8 SCU box. I dropped it on my cat. I opened it up. I'm like, yay! I got a big empty.
Oh, you can get the big ones that you can open and get into too.
Yeah,
I thought that was. Oh wow,
no.
I didn't realize it went all the way up. I thought it was just the one SCU crates
I
that you
think
could
it's
open up and get into.
I think it's all of them, but you can buy the 1, 2, 4, and 8 SCU crates at the store. So I just bought one up at the cargo center, and I dropped it on my ship.
Wow.
And yeah, locks the cargo grid. You can interact with it. It's pretty nice. So
That's
so,
awesome.
so there is that.
I hadn't realized you could get the bigger ones. We do a
Yep.
lot of gun running and stuff, and there've been so many times where we've had to load up 3, 4, 5 boxes, and as people are like taking from one box, we're loading up another box. So being able to buy like a big ass 8 SCU crate, load it all up, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. And the lock to grid.
Imagine this though, and I haven't tried this yet, though I really kind of want to. So it's an 8 SCU. So if we get smaller boxes like a 1 SCU or something, right? Or maybe, I mean, I don't know how small a box we can get. Backpacks, whatever, big backpacks, and we load it in like sets of gear and just start dropping them in that box like a
Ooh,
big old
like
crate.
supply drops. the middle of combat, dropping a big ass crate full of shit. No, that's a cool visualization to
Yeah,
put
so
out there.
there's definitely some options there. So and since
Just wait until they physically open up. You could put people in there, drop
right,
people out.
yeah, and another nice thing is that since we can buy the various sizes instead of having to blow up ships to get them, setting up our inventory of stuff that we want to sell. I mean, that's going to be pretty nice. We can just go to the store, get the crates we need,
Super,
set stuff
super
up.
easy. It's definitely going to save us a lot of time. I can't tell you how many times Tex, I've been online looking to see what Tex is doing. He's like, "Oh, I'm out making boxes." I'm like, "Fucking again?" It's
Yeah,
because he's constantly trading and getting rid of them. So he just logs in sometimes just to make boxes. So this is going to be a huge time saver. I know it
absolutely.
seems like a little thing to maybe people who aren't in like the Star Citizen community, but it's a game changer, man. The boxes are huge. So I am all for the boxes.
Yeah. So what other thing? I mean, so motorcycles, Origin
Yeah,
motorcycles,
we do have
yay.
the X1 series.
Those little bikes. They still don't have a lot of utility, which is part of why I'm not super excited about them. They've got the one that's got a gun on it, but I mean,
So I think that they're slowly but surely moving to ground vehicles having more viability. I've talked with the guys at Empyrean Shores a lot about this, a little bit with the Rec Raiders, but the ground vehicle gameplay is something that I am just very excited about. Period. Right?
sure,
Not
yeah,
necessarily just like the bike physics needs worked on, right? The Dragonfly is a little bit busted right now because it like clips into the ceiling, it doesn't go down, and I know the X1 doesn't. I feel like I read somewhere in the PTU where it had some issues. But like they're considering they did a bunch of rework on radars and stuff, and hover bikes had a super long detect range, and they went back and they took out shields to kind of reduce that and provide some balance there. I
right.
don't know if I don't know if that was just one of their typical knee jerk fixes, but it seems like they're looking a little bit towards ground vehicles, and maybe that's just my hopium, but
Your
I like the
hopium.
idea. My hopium, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's I'm looking forward to having viable ground, uh, you know, play as well. It's just that I don't know. I think maybe part of the problem is that right now there's not really any place that starships can't go, and anywhere a starship is, ground combat is not super viable because almost any ship's going to take out anything on the ground.
Control surfaces will fix that.
Hopefully,
So, yeah, yeah. So, uh, Mike, who's echoing? Give us better feedback. Um, Control surfaces, right? The idea is that ships aren't going to be able to just hover around. So, if we're talking like uh, ships just hovering in place, right? Taking care of an area aerial above an objective, say a base or a ground facility or really anything. They're not going to be able to just hover there, right? They can't just hang out. They're going to have to be moving, right? It's going to consume hydrogen fuel at an accelerated rate. That or they're going to have to land, right? Which is going to be a whole different thing.
yeah,
You certainly won't be able to have big ass like capital ships or frigates or corvettes or anything.
yeah.
Um, just sitting there, right? And so I feel like control surfaces are really going to open that door to allow ground gameplay to become more viable. So super excited for that. I know that's not part of 322, and we got off on a little bit of a tangent there, but
Well, still, I mean, it's talking about the new things like that X one. They do have the three different kinds of X ones also, right?
yeah, the force, the
So
velocity, and the base one.
yes, and that's why I say that. Like, I mean, that like they got the one with the gun. That's cool. They got one for racing. Maybe we can have some motorcycle races sometime. We got at least three different kinds of motorcycles now. So
Also, so we're talking about races. Just a quick plug here: we are hosting Jet Puffed Racers, like in 2 days on Sunday,
yeah,
maybe 3 days on Sunday. Sunday. Jet Puffed Racers, discord.gg/PFCS. Please
why
be
was
there.
I
It's a great
thinking it?
time.
Why was I thinking it's Saturday?
We have rock and roll Saturday. Also, hey,
Oh
Rec
shit,
Raiders,
we
rock
got
and
Rock and
roll.
Roll Saturday and Jet Puffed on.
It's gonna be a busy weekend,
God,
man.
I don't
3:30
have
p.m. Pacific is rock and roll. Yeah.
I don't have overlays for Rock and Roll. God dang it.
Well, oh, you should make one. Yeah. So a couple of big events this weekend. One of them is a race. So just bringing that up. But yeah, the X1, cool. Speaking of control surfaces and ships, the Sandhawk AI. How about that, huh? I'm pretty meh towards the alien ships, but you can't deny it's got some pretty sweet stats.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what's got the 4 size 3s,
Yeah,
right?
I'm not talking
It's
about the
got
guns, although
yeah,
the
no, it's
fire rate was bugged to
yeah.
be
I mean,
ridiculously
it
fast.
it it, it seems to be pretty maneuverable. Um, it's not an unattractive ship as alien ships go. It's certainly not like like the that Vanduul piece of garbage, the blade or whatever that's in my inventory. It's not like that ugly piece of garbage. It's not like a Banu Defender. It's actually it's a really attractive ship, right? And it's got some cool motion to it. I like it. It's I don't know. We'll see how it balances out in the long term. What I'm hearing is a, I think a general consensus that I mean it's not going to be like the meta ship, but it's I mean it's good, I guess.
It's super fast, apparently. Like at least straight line, but it's got its maneuvering thrusters are its main, so it should maneuver pretty quickly.
Right.
But
Yeah,
it
it's
is
got the
it all
maneuvering
is it
thrusters, not entirely unlike the oh, what is it?
the Cartu wall?
Well,
Because it's the
that
big
too.
brother to the Cartu wall.
Yeah, I mean that I was thinking of the other the Fury, kind of like they've got the similar
Oh,
similar
yeah.
to
Well, I
as the
think
Fury. So I
I think it's
imagine it's
supposed to be
real
the
maneuverable
same.
and fast in any
Yeah,
direction.
it's the same tech. I think it's the same ideas there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we have a couple people in our org. One in particular who is a huge fan of the Sandtalk. He's been talking about it since we've known him. So I hope that even if it doesn't balance out super well, I hope that he enjoys it. He's been
Oh yeah,
talking
well,
about it forever. I'm
that's
probably never ever gonna fly one, but you know,
um yeah, so hey, how about we have a look at the patch notes and at least have a
yeah.
look at some of the things that I'm not necessarily remembering. And
Oh yeah,
hopefully,
I was gonna talk about derelict settlements next because that's up on the patch notes right here, right where I've got it. And yeah, your overlay's a little bit messed up there, buddy.
yeah, I knew it was going to be. But you know what? You just kind of zoom in a little bit and I'll make some adjustments to it and we'll be just fine.
Here we go. Zoom in a little bit. I can go a little bit more. So while you're adjusting, derelict settlements. I'm pretty excited about this. When did we start? We started about 15 minutes ago, Mike. A little less. Anyway, derelict settlements. They added 15. Did these settlements were supposed to come in 320, but they pushed them back. And frankly, I don't really know why. I don't know if there was just like problems with entities and degraded performance. I think was part of it. But these are supposed to come in from 320. Uh, I think the difference is that they're inhabited. So I think that there are. I haven't been to them yet personally, so please correct me if I'm wrong. But I think that there's like hostile settlements and friendly settlements. So I think some of them have like friendly NPCs that you can go to. I know that Mike in our Discord went um to go one of the settlements, and they had like a shop kiosk and shit that he could buy things from.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, that's kind of cool.
yeah, it's got some let's just see. 15 new derelict settlements, both mission gameplay, social elements, and shops. There you go. These new inhabited settlements are spread throughout the wilderness of Hurston and Microtech using the Rastar tool with a larger expanded library of new and existing assets. Some locations via accessible via the star map, which means you can probably quantum to some of these,
Yeah.
while other new settlements are more discreet and appear behind missions. So kind of like Ghost Hollow first did when it initially came out, is you had to get this delivery mission, which would take you there, which turned into a clear hostiles mission, and now you can jump to it. So sounds like some of them you're going to be able to jump to, others you won't.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to go to any of those yet. So,
Me neither, but I'm super excited. There's one that I think it's Bloodshot Ridge. I don't know, but there's a sizable one on Microtech. It's pretty big. It's up kind of up on the top of a hill. I think that this derelict location would make a really great like FPS event location just because it's very well laid out. It's big enough to where you're not going to be crowded in there. It's got enough cover you can maneuver in and out of stuff. Look like the buildings maybe had multiple entry points. Like I said, I haven't been there yet. I plan to visit all of these very soon, but I'm very excited for the derelict settlements. Fill out the system a little bit more.
Oh, oops. You know what? I need to stop typing.
Oh
Okay,
my goodness
I'm not
gracious.
typing anymore. That's
Good. Yeah,
stupid
please don't.
hotkeys. Yeah.
So, yeah, people were concerned in the past that we've got these cool big planets, fully traversable, but what do the planets have to offer? Well, we're starting to see the answer to that,
Yeah.
right? With these derelict settlements, and not even so. In the past, they all used to be built on like derelict ships, but as far as I know, they're not necessarily built on ships anymore. We've got the oil rig on Hurston, I think, right? Hurston's pretty sure. Oh yeah, Cutter's rig. And I don't think there's a derelict ship there. I think that's just like an oil rig that's been built out on the water, and it's got a little settlement as part of it. In fact, I think that's the new 322 loading screen is Cutter's rig.
Oh,
So it's nice to see that they're not just including the shipwreck settlements, but also just old settlements that had been erected a long time ago of actual like building materials instead of you know wrecked a ship here, did what you did to survive. It's cool to see that sort of lasting life present in the Stanton system, and I'm excited to see more of those and eventually player bases to help fill that out too. It's just nice to see life.
yeah. No, I
Waiting for
agree.
that AI nav mesh too, because then, oh man, huge tangent there, but ships and NPCs coming in and out of those settlements, walking around, buying things.
Yeah, I
Whew.
mean, getting that nav mesh working, that'll be nice, especially if they actually put some content behind it. Because
Yeah, well, the going
because
back
there's
a
the
little bit.
technology and then there's the world building guys, right? So they got to actually
Yeah,
do something
so
with it.
so
So
going
hopefully
back a little
do
bit,
something
they
good.
had talked about releasing it, I think in like 317 or something. It was a little while ago, and they said, "Oh, we're working on the AI planetary nav mesh, which will allow NPCs to path out, places to go, and they'd be able to get on ships, and there
Yeah,
would be these missions where you could, pick them up and drop them off, and they could, in theory, they could walk from point A to point B on a planet and be able to course that out. But they never ended up actually putting that in, and they haven't talked much about it since then. So I don't know where that's at, but, it's been worked on at least a little bit because they were planning on putting it into the game. So, not sure if they're waiting on server meshing or Pyro or what, I'm not a programmer, so I don't know what they're waiting on, but it'll just be cool is my point to see that happening.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I'm looking forward to it, I guess. But um, what else? What else we got? What else we got?
Structural salvage.
Structural salvage, another one I haven't touched yet. But I do know that our friends the Rec Raiders probably pretty interested in that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So structural salvage has been received. It's kind of 50-50 from what I've seen where people love it and people hate it, right? So
Yeah, so people talk about the claw on the reclaimer,
that's exactly why.
earlier they were saying it's not a claw, it's a straw. I don't know what that means. I guess it's sucking stuff up instead of grabbing and
Yeah,
bringing
so
it
I'll
in.
sort of
So
explain it, right? So the reclaimer on its concept and up until just this last patch featured a claw underneath the cockpit. In it, it was always imagined that it would reach out, and in
yeah,
fact, when they were talking about structural salvage, they even referred to it as munching, right? Ship munching. That was what they called it. So it would go out and rip the ship apart and put it in its scrap processors and churn out the boxes, right? Well, they sort of dropped a salvage bomb in that they changed the claw completely now. And so instead of grabbing things, what it does is it still extends as normal, but then it's like a four prong and it like opens up into this weird looking thing, and then it's like in a like a some sort of wave emitter, right? I don't know what kind of wave, but it basically just like some sort of high frequency vibration, and it just busts the ship apart, and then
gotcha.
turns on suction mode and it disintegrates the individual pieces of the ship and sucks them into the salvage processors. So that's where that comes from. It's not a claw, it's a straw. Um, the thing is though, is Rev, you're not super excited about 322 because there's not a lot of content. And I think CIG realized that too. Like 322 is the end of the year patch. They're working on trying to get the server meshing tech in there, the replication layer split handled, right? But they I think that they realize that there's not a lot of content in this patch. So I think that they wanted to give us something, and they even said as much. They just wanted to give us something for the end of the year that was somewhat meaningful. And so they put in this structural salvage because it's something people have been looking forward to. And the straw solution, the high frequency emitter with the straw, is a temporary solution. They're waiting for Maelstrom, which is the destructible environment tech, before they fully integrate that
Right.
munching tech. So it's
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I mean, I actually am really looking forward to, giving the structural salvage, a try, even in the state that it's in, because the salvage gameplay in general, I think is pretty neat. The ability to just go out there and, chop up ships, stripping
Yeah,
doing the hull scraping was a nice first step so that you could go out and get
definitely.
materials and at least initiate that gameplay loop. I'm assuming that by munching a ship, you can get resources faster. You can get different, better resources and materials out of the ship.
Yeah, so
Maybe.
let's talk about that actually for a second. They introduced a second material. So you know that when you hull scrape a ship, you get recycled material composite, which is RMC, right? And it gets pumped out on those little boxes on the Vulture, the Reclaimer. Well, with the structural salvage, when you suck up the disintegrated little bits that you just blew apart with your high frequency emitter, you get construction material, which isn't quite as valuable, but it is sort of a next step in crafting, which we see in both the Vulture and the Reclaimer
It
box
it
dispensers.
it sounds like a preparatory step for player settlements, which is
I think it
nice.
is. I think it is, right? So there was a pipeline leak. So take this with a grain of salt, obviously, about Planet Tech V5. And I was deliberating a little bit with like Phaedron, who's in chat, and I think just a couple of the other Empyrean Shores guys and a couple of our own guys about what might be included in that. And we were talking about, oh, it's probably the player facing Rastar tool, right? And so the fact that these things are being looked at internally, at least according to Pipeline, leads me to believe that, yeah, the introduction of construction material probably is in preparation for player base building. And I'm excited to see what other materials they let us produce in various ways.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you that they haven't really talked much about crafting in anything yet. I haven't seen it in the Citizen Con or anything. But I'll be honest, that's a piece that I'm very much looking forward to. The ability to create clothes, armor, ship parts, weapons, ammunition. That's a piece that I feel like, I mean, they have to do it. They have to. I mean, they have to,
Well, they will,
right?
and they actually did at CitizenCon mention that, right? They said that there would be blueprints for items that you'd be able to obtain, whether it be by mission drops, rare vendors, world drops, right? And that you'd be able to take these blueprints, and these blueprints would allow you to build different things, but different blueprints would allow you to build them with different materials, which would affect their overall quality. And they said you
Yeah.
could be able to
Oh,
build anything from, you know, weapon attachments. They said ships, so maybe we'll be able to find like rare blueprints of like fighters, right? And maybe we'll be able to build them. Maybe not quite to as high a quality as the Aegis shipyards, right? But the idea that maybe we could build a ship is kind of cool.
I want to build a capital.
Good luck. Good luck. I don't see that happening, but we'll see. We'll see.
Give
But
me a
crafting
Kraken
is
blueprint.
definitely coming. Crafting is definitely coming.
Yeah.
So it's just nice to see, even if it is a slow progression, it is so far a consistent progression. We've only had the 2 bits so far. The first one was a surprise. Everybody
Yes.
freaked out over it. But
So, did you by chance see the Inside Star Citizen today?
No, I've been at work all day.
So then you also haven't been in game, because there's something that was added to the game that I think you'll be happy about that you might not know about.
If you're talking about the Cutter Rambler, I did hear about that, but I don't
Yeah.
know anything about it.
Yeah. So as a subscriber, you have one.
I don't think I am a subscriber.
No, I thought you were. I thought you were. Well,
I,
I'm a
I used to
subscriber,
be.
and I definitely have one.
You're gonna have to
So
let me check it out.
yeah, so I mean, I hopped into it. It's yeah, it is an awful ship name, but it's Drake. What do you expect? Um, I mean, it's a cutter, right? So
Right.
it's nothing super special. It does take a lot of the cargo space from the cutter, because the cutter's got a lot of cargo space, right?
Sure.
Takes the majority of that, and it turns into living space. It's an expedition ship.
Rambler.
So it's got
That's kind of great.
yeah, so it's got the bed, it's got this little tiny desk that you get to eat at, with a little like spot where, like, a little tiny counter. And of course the desk is the little desk table is about 3 feet from the shitter, as it should be,
Perfect.
right?
Perfect.
So I mean, it's a pretty good ship. Um, Cargo space is super tiny, tiny little scar,
Phaedron's
but
saying
it's
it's
got some
half.
half.
Yeah, 2 SCU on the Rambler as opposed to 4 for the base cutter.
Okay,
Which I mean, it's a starter ship, right? So it's not meant to have a lot. I think the perks of the cutter compared to other starter ships was the fact that it has an ass ton of quantum fuel, so it can go
and
pretty much anywhere.
the Rambler's got half again as much.
Um, I think the Rambler had more fuel, at least according to Phaedron. I haven't
That's
been
what I
in it.
said.
I haven't.
Half again as much. 150% the cutter.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
English.
Gotcha.
Anyway,
Cool.
yeah,
I'm gonna have to check that out.
got a lot of fuel. Yeah, no, I'll definitely show it to you. It's cool.
I'm
I
sure.
think
I'm
you'll
sure
like
I'll
it.
have one at some point.
Yep. So we got that. What else we got here? Player hair, locations, denser forests, big whoop.
Oh, this is a big one that I wanted to talk about. Thank you, Mike. By the way, um, one that I wanted to talk about is FPS weapons and systems overhaul.
Yeah, see,
This is
this
something I am not necessarily happy about.
yeah,
So,
this one will affect me. I like doing bunkers. I go in solo all the time at bunkers, and I've been recently irritated with the bug about NPCs dropping through the floor and the stairs. That's theoretically fixed. So I have been interested to see, what the weapon updates are like. And there's also supposed to be the AI are more responsive to people. They're not as slow to respond. So I'm interested to
well,
see what that's like. But
yeah,
yeah, the weapon, the recoil, the ammo reworks, the whole weapon thing. I am
yeah.
interested to see how that goes.
So the AI thing, we talked a little bit about that on our last podcast. That's the Squadron 42 FPS AI that's in, and so that's how they're reacting differently.
Yeah, but more
What
specifically,
I
they were slow even in that last patch. They weren't really
Oh,
responding sometimes. So I think they fixed that so that they're a little more
hopefully.
responsive.
What I'm not necessarily loving is that they have increased the TTK or time to kill
Yep.
by a lot. They reduced the overall damage that you take. They reduced the damage multipliers for core body parts, right? They did and it was really bad at first, right? Because they didn't change how much damage weapons did. So players as the armor got a huge buff, the amount of damage they take in general got a huge nerf, right? So it was like you're walking around as Iron Man all the time. But in 322 they did increase the weapons the damage that weapons do, so I'm kind of hoping that that's going to offset it a little bit. I just noticed it, especially during Siege, right? I did one PvP playthrough of Siege. I like to do it every time it comes around because it poses a fun challenge, but it took like 3 P6 headshots just to down a dude. I was like, what the hell, man? Like what's going on? Um and sure, you can make an argument, oh, he's wearing heavy armor, he should be able to tank a bunch of shots, and that's true to a point. But if you're sitting there with a 50 caliber rifle slug doming somebody 3 times and they're still running around, I feel like there's an issue, right?
Sure,
Am I wrong for saying that?
I could see
And,
that.
yeah, I feel like FPS changes needed to happen, right? Because FPS is not amazing in this game, or it wasn't before. It's definitely not now. Balance was definitely needed. I think that so far they have gone the wrong way about it. Thalament talked about FPS not going in Tarkov's direction. I don't necessarily want it to go in Tarkov's direction, right? And I'll kind of talk about how I wanted to go. Tarkov is like a you get shot in the toe, you better bandage it up or you're going to bleed out situation, right? Because it's supposed to be super hyper realistic. There's a difference here, right? In that Star Citizen does take place 1,000 years in the future. You've got advanced armors to protect you, but also death is supposed to play a much larger role, right? So injuries and incapacitation is supposed to be a much bigger, a much more common occurrence than death. Death is supposed to be hard, and that I'm fine with, right? So I feel like the balance that they have here, I think they're pushing for less death, which is good. But the way they're doing it is just by reducing how much damage you take, not by changing the values at which you take tiered injuries or you get knocked out, or maybe they add knockdown effects, right? Um, I just feel like there's different ways to balance it to achieve the goal they're looking for, as opposed to just reducing the damage you take, so you can just be a walking wall and a bullet sponge.
Y- right, sure. Um, I don't know that I have strong feelings, honestly. I do know that I don't like going into a bunker or something and I hear pop, pop, and I'm down. It's like,
True,
I know I don't like that. Um,
I agree. But that's where the I'm bleeding, or I've got an injury. Maybe I should take some cover.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
pop a couple painkillers and
right.
reevaluate.
Yeah, all I want is enough time so that I can get to some cover, decide, hey, do I need to pull out my med gun? Do I need to just pop a hemazole? Um,
Yeah, and
do I
and
need to call for
but
help or just run the hell out of here if I can?
right, and I'm good with that, right? But here's an example as to something that happened that I thought, wow, this is asinine. So Barracuda and I, as well as a couple other of our guys, were camping Brios as we do, right? Waiting for some cargo pilot to come in so we could take their shit and leave and sell it later. It's super fun. But we were sitting there waiting for our quarry to arrive, and Barracuda and I were talking shit to each other as we always do. And he's like, "Yeah, we'll take this," and he shoots me, right? Not that big a deal. And I was like, "Oh, haha, how funny. It wasn't that bad." I was down just under 70% health. I wasn't bleeding. I was like, "Oh, he probably dinged me with his pistol." And a few minutes later, he's like, "Hey, how much damage did you take?" I was like, "Oh, I'm at like 65% maybe. No bleed, no tiered injury." He's like, "Dude, I just domed you in the face with a P6." And I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, I was sitting perfectly still, I wasn't moving around, we were, like, 80 meters from each other, so it's not a necessarily long shot, right? He's like, "Dude, like, yeah, just right in the face." So, I was like,
What kind of
"Wow."
armor were you wearing?
Heavy helmet,
So you
which
were wearing heavy.
I was wearing a heavy helmet, but I'll get there, right? So, you could put as heavy a helmet as you want on your head. That's still a 50 caliber round hitting you at Mach Jesus. Okay. So even if it didn't knock me out, which I'm fine if it didn't, right? I think it should personally, but I can see why it wouldn't. It should at least give you some sort of tiered injury, probably a knockdown effect, right? Because that's still a lot of force in a concentrated area, right? You're still getting whacked in the head super, super hard, and your helmet's going to prevent you from getting killed, but it's going to fucking hurt, right? So at least a knockdown effect, a tier 3 minimum I should have taken. Bleeding out or not, I don't know, but I definitely should have felt it more than I did. If it did, 30% of my damage, and I was like, oh yeah, brush it off, bad, in my opinion, not good enough. So that's why I'm a little bit upset about it, given that I do a fair amount of piracy. I do some FPS combat, right? I don't love it. So, I think it needs further balancing.
Yeah, well, I mean, so long as they're continuing to make attempts at getting it right, I have optimism that it'll improve. It'll get worse. It'll improve. Hopefully, they'll find a good
Oh,
balance
yeah.
that's in a good place.
Yeah, I
So
think, it'll I think it will get fixed. It's just in a rough spot right now. Yeah, if Adrian's saying should apply more effects like concussed, knockdown if you're taking that much damage, I agree.
yeah,
Star Citizen is not a game where I ever expect, nor do I want it to be a one-shot kill, right? Not gonna happen, right? Unless you're, like, being reduced to your component atoms. I don't want you to get one-shot killed, you know? Because
you
the
know,
medical gameplay is huge,
I think
you know?
there are cases where it would make sense. You've got yourself a nice sniper rifle. You're hitting a civilian with no armor, and you and
Well,
and you,
okay,
and you dome
fine,
him. Yeah, I
fine,
mean that should be a one shot.
sure, but here's
But
an
that's a
example.
special case, right?
You you could stand with just light armor and pull a pin in a grenade and let it go off in your hand, and it will not kill you. And I think that's a
That
little silly.
that is problematic. Yeah, no, that's not right.
I think that's a little silly. So, it'll knock you down, which is good, but at that point, it's just a really strong concussive grenade instead of a frag grenade. Um, so yeah, I mean, yeah, there are certain circumstances. Sure, if you take a 50 cal to a bare skull, you're gonna die. But yeah, I think that it's a little silly where it is, and I think that they realize that too because they did buff the damages of a lot of the guns by a not insignificant amount. So I'll hop back into 322, see how it goes. Maybe it feels better. I haven't tried it since they increased the weapon damages, so crossing my fingers.
Yep,
I just yeah, I feel a little strongly about that.
cool. You have any thoughts on the like? Did you get into the PTU at all while 22 was in PTU?
No, I didn't get access until wave 4 because apparently my concierge status isn't good enough for anything but wave 4.
Gotcha.
And by then it was like wave 4 and then wave 5 for everybody, and then it was I haven't gotten it. No.
Gotcha. So
So
I
I
was just
didn't
going to
I didn't
mention
get
that
to.
they did bring the MRI the Mirai Furies and the whole C into the shops, which is nice. Um, I don't know that there's a lot to talk about there. Ships we already know about. We can buy them now in game. But they also adjusted prices across the board, including flight suits and undersuits. So
Yes.
I'm interested.
Yes, they
I haven't
did.
really paid much attention yet to what those prices look like yet, but I am interested to see what exactly that looks like. What are the new ship prices, right?
Yeah.
How much is the 890 now?
Like 100 million.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, it's like 100 million now. So they did
Fuck
increase
me.
prices across the board. Um
Which I think is good.
uh yeah, I think the C2 now is like 30 million. Like it's up there.
Nice.
I saw a brief list in passing of what some of the updated ship pricing was. Um, Phaedron says ship pricing was over the weekend, but should be back to normal.
All I know is in the release notes right there, armor shop prices have all been increased across the board. Boom. I haven't actually looked, like I said, so I don't know.
So yeah, armor shop prices. Maybe that has to
Oh,
go back into
armor
the
shop
balance.
prices have been increased. I I I missed the armor part.
So maybe that's going back into the whole FPS balance thing, where I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they're really pushing for people not dying right now. Um, I can see them wanting to push that, right? Because that was always the vision, is that people wouldn't be dying. But it's not like right now, it's not that big of a deal. We lose what's on our person, and that's annoying, right? But we don't have any of the death of a spaceman mechanics really in. Um, so I these what I feel are knee jerk reactions to entice people to survive longer and not die.
Yeah.
I- Maybe it's the right time, maybe it's not. I don't know. Maybe they're trying to get it balanced before Pyro because they're expecting this to happen in Pyro. Um, So, maybe they want to have a better FPS model in place before the anarchy that is Pyro takes place. I could see that being a thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Let's hope that they just balance it out. Not to beat a dead horse or anything.
Yep. I think that's
Corpse
all.
recovery, I've not had luck recently. Uh, I've heard people had better luck, but it seems my body's either despawn or end up in the middle of the world. Even still,
I
um,
I tend not to try.
I definitely try because like a silly goose, I run around with rail guns and grenade launchers all the time, so I
Yeah,
lose
I
them.
yeah, if I'm doing it, it's just because I like the armor I'm wearing. It's not like I don't have like a dozen sets,
Yeah,
that I can just grab at any time. But I mean, I don't want to go to the store.
yeah, exactly. That's my
Ugh.
motivation. I don't want to go to the store. I don't want to have to say, "Hey Tex, can I get another rail gun, please?" I don't I don't want to have to bug him for that. You know,
Yeah. So, honestly, I think that's
It's-
the majority of the changes that have come in.
yeah, that is pretty much all of the features for 322. The replication layer split, as far as I know, is supposed to be something coming in a 322.x patch. It
Yeah.
was supposed to be in 321.x. There was
Yes.
some PTU going on there.
Yeah. So looking at the release view on the patch on the roadmap. They did move replication layer from 3.2.1 to 3.2.2, and that's the only thing that is still tentative. Everything else was committed. So I mean, it's the only thing for a point one patch currently listed on the
Yeah,
roadmap. So if they have a
yeah,
point one, that's it.
yeah. I tend to agree with you. Um, as far as I know, they haven't gotten past the biggest issue, which is that there's like up to a 10-minute delay for server crashing into server recovery,
Oh,
right?
ew.
Yeah, so what they've been having at least the last two times that they put it in is server will go down. It'll say something like recovering or please stand by or something, some message to indicate that the server has crashed and they're working on recovery, but it basically freezes you in place, right? Like you can still move around and stuff because the replication layer is communicating with your client still, but then like 10 minutes go by and it's like and it like resyncs with the server, puts you back to where you were 10 minutes ago. And it's
That's an obnoxious rubber band.
It is an obnoxious rubber band, yeah. So I think that's their biggest issue that they're trying to fight now is, the time between crash and then another server spooling to take its place. I don't know how they're gonna fix that because it's not my fucking job, but I'm hoping that they come up with a solution. Even if it's like, 30 seconds to a minute, that would still suck, but it would be better than 10 minutes, and it would be
Yeah.
also better than 30K'ing out completely and then having to restart your game, get back into a new server, pull out your ship again, and get going again. It would beat that. So,
Yeah. 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 Hopefully they figure that out soon. Honestly, that's one of the features that I would have been excited for if uh, if 322 had it. That would have
yeah,
changed
same.
my tune.
Same. Definitely. Yeah, there's not too terribly much that I'm excited for in this patch either, but it's one step closer and that's enough for me. It still feels like we're making progress, even if it is a little slower. I was hoping that we might have, if not an open PTU, then at least like an Evo or a Wave One like Pyro PTU that had everything before the end of the year. And I know that they mentioned that they were still planning on doing that as of like last month, but we haven't heard anything more, and we're getting pretty close. So
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath for anything like that. So
yeah, yeah, me neither. Oh, watch ISC. Okay, I will watch ISC. That is on the top of my to do list. Then, as soon as we are finished up here, I will watch
yeah, I mean,
ISC.
I'm sure they're going to be. Yeah, he did mention. Actually, there was mention of like on the test preview, them doing some tests with pyro and active jump gates and like all of the things.
Oh, good.
Um,
Well, that was what they mentioned last month, that they were going to try and have a full pyro preview with the jump gate.
but I'm
Did they
I,
mention that they're aiming for the end of the year for that, or if
I,
that's
I'm
going to be
s-
like
I, I didn't really catch a time frame for that other than uh, that they'll be doing it in the first half of next year. I'd kind of be surprised if they actually succeed in getting it by the end of this year.
Well, I trust what Thalamin is saying. He's a pretty reliable source. Apparently, Jared said next year.
Well, yeah, like
So
I said. So,
yeah,
but specifically, I think first half next year that stuff will be, because he didn't talk about second half. He was just talking first half. And let me tell you,
yeah.
the stuff that he slated as coming in the first half of next year, holy crap! I realized what we were going to talk about 322, but I'm throwing this in there. The list of
Of
things
course.
slated for the beginning of next year is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous, right? So we got the full new character creation system, right? All of that with the beards and
Oh,
all of that
yeah.
stuff,
Okay.
right? We got obviously replication layer, right? Basically, like think of all of the things like from um Citizen Con minus Pyro. Is it felt like he just like everything. It was crazy.
Well, in the first half, really.
Yeah, it was a ton of
So
stuff.
we've got a little bit of time. We can actually put on the ISC and kind of go through it and talk about it if you wanted to.
Yeah, sure, we can do that. Let me. You're queued up for it. Um,
I
I don't know if I've got
I
the
am.
sound working correctly, but let's give it a shot.
It should be. Let's find out.
Oh, hold on. Pause it for me if you don't mind. I need to make a quick change to get the sound because we didn't test this before we started. Sorry about that. I
Nope.
want
This is surprise.
got this cable A. Let me go here. Pardon me messing with stuff that we can see here. We're gonna go not that. Where is it? There it is. Boom. Okay. And try that. And of course, that's not working. Hold on just a second. We'll pause it. Technical difficulties. That's cable A. That's cable A. We're in here. Oh, I've got you muted. That's why. So let me unmute you here. Actually, no. Let me mute you. Hold on. Wrong thing.
Thanks, Faye.
Boop. Boom. Now try.
Reliable and drivable vehicles from manufacturers as varied as
Are we
APOA,
good?
Origin,
Yes, we are.
and Drake. Let's find out more.
Good. Cool.
So
Ready?
in Alpha 322, we have 3 new vehicles available, and they cover a huge range of
Talked
both
about
size
these.
and role. But the
What
most
the-
exotic, the Airpower Santokyai. The Santokyai is a medium fighter from Airpower, but it doesn't follow the traditional medium fighter role that we see with human manufacturers. It has, for its size, quite a lot of health
I'm with
and
you, Thal.
classic
I don't love
Xi'an
this
high
ship.
maneuverability, as well as being extremely flashy in both its function and form.
Yeah,
The idea with the alien ships is that we don't
HUD
want them
is
just
pretty
to feel
interesting
alien.
looking,
We want them
though.
to feel different within their own rights, within that kind of alien spectrum. On the Gattac side of things, we've really kind of tried to make them feel quite industrial, quite strong and chunky. Whereas on the Apoa side of things, we took more inspiration from the insect form, so we want them to feel a lot faster, a little bit more
Insect.
kind of aggressive,
That's
and
the
have a
word.
bit
They're
more
like
attack in their
insectoid, and I don't
shapes.
care for that.
When you first see the Santokyai,
Yeah, no, it really
you'll
is.
clearly see the family lineage between itself and the Katual, which is the light fighter from Aopoa.
It's their kind of second Xi'an ship that they've made, and it's really bringing kind of a big brother.
They both have 2 stages, or 2 transform states, from landed to the flight pose, and you see that very classic Aopoa flowering transformation from a more horizontal position to the more vertical flight and combat position.
It's still got
It's
the
a
kind
cool
of nice big
animation.
transforming kind of style.
I
when it
agree.
Transforms
Very
from
technical,
landed
very
mode
advanced.
into flight mode.
It's
But we've really tried to
certainly
kind of push
cool. It
the
has the
alien
cool
aesthetics
factor.
a little bit further this time,
just don't
both
care for it.
interior and exterior. One of the kind of more unique elements, I think, on the Santok Yai is its cockpit. Not just the space inside, but actually how you enter
There's
it.
that
It's got
GN
this
hover
really
tech.
kind of exotic, shall I say,
Yep.
seat that comes down to collect you from the player space, and then that kind of all floats down and takes you back into your actual pilot position.
I do
One
like
of
the
things that we really
uniqueness
spent
of it
quite
picking
a
you
bit
up
of
from
time
the side.
investigating
Feels
and
pretty
kind of
alien.
really trying to kind of nail
again?
the visuals on was the actual interactions with the cockpit. We wanted to make sure we weren't stepping on the toes of what we did in the Gatax cockpit, and it needed to be like its own unique thing. Elwin and the Austin team kind of really nailed that visually. It's got these really nice sort of slate buttons with all the Xi'an text in it. And one of the things we were really keen to do with kind of all of our alien ships is remove a lot of that human element. They may be made to be human compatible, but we really wanted them to feel like their native race was the people that built it, and that's who it was made for, us, number one. And so we've got these kind of really nice interactive tablets with all the Xi'an text on them.
Yep.
Do have a number of paints coming out with the Santok Yai. They are still currently just being developed and signed off as we're filming this now.
Yeah,
Again, we
and
tried
the
to
paints
kind
are
of
out actually, and they're kind of
something
cool.
Not necessarily kind of completely
That is kind of a
new,
nice white.
but kind of just push the bar.
Yeah, I tend to be
slightly
partial
with what
to
we're trying
white.
do.
The fact it's got a
that
white
kind of fine
paint
thing where
is something
alien
that might
doesn't
cause me
always
to
mean
actually get it because I could make it
fancy
white.
and unique, but we do want it to feel a little bit different to what our kind of human races are. It's very obvious when you see the silhouette of the ship and when you see it in flight what it is, but the paints is kind of that little icing on top, and also it kind of gives that really nice read when you get up and close and personal with it.
The Santok Yai is a fighter through and through. It really excels at that. It doesn't have any secret hidden features, but it does have all of our latest tech and features within it, such as weapon racks, personal storage,
Yeah,
and
so,
accessible components.
I had heard that
So
it
this
has a
ship
pretty
is really
awesome
for
weapon rack
those who
similar to this
prize
Yulin.
maneuverability and position in combat. The firepower of the ship is pretty good for its size, but its real strength is its maneuverability. So that's the Santok
See that
Yai,
whip around
available
right there?
in 322, and we think it's going to be a great addition to our lineup of fighters and alien ships. Just like the other ones, it's great for those players who want that role, but just want something a bit more stylish and exotic. From there, let's go from space combat and atmospheric combat
So
down to
I
the surface,
heard,
talk
I
about
haven't
the Origin
experienced
X1
it,
series.
but I heard that the X1 had an
Origin
issue
first
in
hover
like
bike
its
game
landed
is
position where
their
it was like
kind of
nose forward and
answer to
funny.
some of the other hover bikes we've
Yep.
already got from different
Um,
manufacturers, like
I mean,
the
obviously they're not
Nox
talking
Dragonfly.
about that, but
this bike was kind of
something to test
developed
for sure.
alongside the 400i in its concept phase, and the idea was that this is that kind of classic, smaller kind of day vehicle that you can take out from your big.
It wasn't
exciting
clear. I'm
explorer ship.
assuming that
Those
you
two kind of go
that
hand
you
in
don't
hand.
get an.
It has its own little garage
Maybe
at the
somebody in
front
the
of
chat can tell us:
400i, and it really
is
just
there
allows
a
you to, once you
package where you
land
get the
on planet,
400i
you can then
with the
kind of
X1?
leave everything back in your ship and go out and explore. And
You know, like
Kinda
you
like
get
the
the
rover with
a nice little hover bike.
I'm sure
Phoenix.
the more enterprising of
Well,
you out
kinda
there
like
will
you
be
get the,
finding
the
all different
Pisces
ways of getting
with
these into
the,
places they shouldn't be, such as the upcoming distribution centers.
I don't know why. I
Well,
have
there's a
trouble
whole
with the-
different there's a whole different package where you get the Pisces with the Carrack. But if you buy Constellation Phoenix, you automatically get a rover.
Yeah, but that right.
I
So
think one of the things that's been kind of super
I'm just
nice
wondering
to
if
see
there's
as
that
the
type
bike's
of a
kind gone through
package
its
with
development
the
is really
400i
selling,
where you get the X1.
the idea of this bike being
Cool.
a hover bike. We've got a lot of
And we're made to go together, so I
VFX
can
and
imagine.
lighting going in from the teams, really selling it that it
Oh,
does
Val says there's
feel
not
like a bike in the future. We've got these nice brake lights at the rear. We've got the kind of front lights, and one of my
Oh, yeah.
favorite bits on it is actually
They were saying in the chat earlier, and
cockpit, the
Zimmer's
kind of, like,
Zim's
the
reminding me
driver's
if you
space,
look at the
dashboard in
X1
there,
wrong,
looks
it'll scratch the
super
paint.
nice, really sleek, kind of classic Origin, and it all flows really nicely with the rest of the shapes.
The X1 series is a series of 3 bikes that allow Origin to have their own edge of the market in terms of hover bikes and to have 3 different play styles within them. With the X1 Force, this is designed to aid in ground combat, allowing you to be on a speedy, small profile
geez.
target with some shielding to allow you to absorb a few hits and help engage combat. And then we have the Velocity, which removes the weapon hardpoint and instead gains speed. Whilst tuning is underway at the time of recording, we intend the X1 Velocity to be a competitor to the Nox, and Both of those are designed to be faster than the Dragonfly, which is more utilitarian.
I kind of want
the
this
velocity
scene right here.
is
Kind
a
of
great
makes me want to have a
addition
bike
to
race at the
ground
Snake Pit.
racing community, and will be right at home
Maybe we
in
will.
all the ground racing tracks. The base X1 is there
Terrifying,
to
though.
provide an option for those of you
Right.
who don't like the NOx or just don't like whatever aesthetic you
I'm
think
with you,
Drake
Zim.
users have.
Railguns are some of my favorite kills.
And here's
Here
the
we
Cutter
go. I actually get
Rambler.
to see the Rambler now.
And speaking of Drake aesthetics, that moves us nicely on to the last ship of 322, the Drake Cutter Rambler.
The Cutter Rambler is our third variant of the Cutter series, and it kind of rounds off the series as a whole.
It even has that little
As we talked about at
bump on
Citizen
top
Con,
that
the
looks
Drake
like-
Cutter family was always designed as a family of
Campers.
3, and we've shown you the base one and the Scout. The Rambler is the third one, and it is designed from the start to be the more fleshed out premium starter explorer combination of the 3.
Look
I know
at that
premium and
thing.
Drake might be a bit of a weird juxtaposition there.
They are a very functional manufacturer and no frills manufacturer. That really kind of is sold nicely on the interior space. We've sacrificed some of the rear cargo space for the larger habitation.
This allows extra space for both a suit
Oh,
locker,
okay.
a food machine, and somewhere to eat that food, and a nice little table to chill at.
But
Kinda
even
love that.
within that habitation,
Yeah,
you can see how
little
they've moved the
table.
bulkhead back one, they've moved the bathroom,
kinda
they've
love
opened up this
that.
nice space, and then they put, a seat, a desk, a little jump seat, and the bare minimum you need as a pilot going out and exploring our universe. We want to make sure there was visually some differences on the exterior. So we've got the kind of visual-only differences,
Space
such as the
Winnebago.
kind of like the modified rear
No, it's a
section.
Space Rambler.
We've also got the kind of more functional stuff. So on top, it's got the extended fuel tank. Visual to the idea of
That bump
having
is a fuel tank,
your
you said?
Winnebago or your camper van or whatever it might be. And it's
You
got this
didn't
kind
say
of
it was
like roof
specifically
rack aesthetic,
that's
but
fuel
it's
tank,
actually
but you
kind
did say
of
it has a
stores
larger
all the
one.
extra kind of fuel for the extended fuel tanks. And then as with the Scout, we've got the change in the thrusters. And again, we've got a unique set of thrusters on a new nacelles on each side that really help kind of just break up that silhouette a little bit more variation. With the Rambler being kind of a longer range or an extended range vehicle, I think having the kind
I
of
will
like
say,
slightly
I
smaller,
love
they
that
look
the
a little bit more
Cutters
efficient
all
on the
have
engines rather than these
unique
great
thrusters
big
on
kind of
them.
individual
Whereas,
engines.
like,
You've got these
Scout's
slightly
got the
smaller,
doubles.
more of them
That has like
individual
quad
thrusters.
thrusters on it, which is
I'm very happy
cool,
with
and
the
I
Rambler.
actually prefer
One
those
of
over the
things
big
that we
single
kind of
thrusters
really
on the base
tried
model.
to lean into when we were developing the Rambler was Drake's kind of mentality towards building their ships. I think it kind of ticked that box of exactly what Drake would do. They've got this chassis. They want to make somewhere you can spend a bit more time in, somewhere that's a little bit more
I
comfortable.
love the
but they're
fold-down
still kind of
seat
working
with the
to
little
that
table. It's so
Drake's
good.
budget and design
Yeah,
ethos.
no, that's
So
it's
I'm very
kind of
happy
cool.
with how it turned out.
The little
The Rambler
jump seat kind
really
of a seat.
takes the base Cutter to the next level in terms of living on board. I think we all saw that when the Cutter came out, but it was very much more of a camper van than an RV, which is what the Rambler is. So that's a wrap-up of all the new vehicles coming to the Persistent Universe in 322. And as always, we look forward to seeing you all use them and abuse them in all different ways in the live game.
Now, of course, Alpha
actually kind of
322
excited about
comes
that
with
Rambler.
more than just
Not gonna lie.
vehicles. There are
Yeah.
structural salvage,
I
openable
can
cargo
understand that.
containers, new derelict settlements, new hairs for players, new maps for Arena Commander, and more. But since this is our last episode of the year, we
Here's
here
the
at
good stuff.
IAC of looking back at everything that's happened the last 12 months and reliving some of our favorite moments. And look, 2023 was good. Great even if you gloss over that little rough patch in the middle there. Here, all that I can really think about is everything that's on the horizon that's about to make 2024 the biggest and baddest year of our project yet. So if it's all right with you, I'd like to indulge myself, maybe switch out my CIG cap and put my backer hat on
I don't know
and
if you
tell you
noticed,
what
but
has
it's
me
exactly the same
excited
hat.
about this next year for the Persistent Universe in a segment
did
that I'm
notice that. I
calling
was like, wait a
Disco
minute.
Lando's Star Citizen 2020 Forecast. Now, without talking specific dates, let's discuss what's being targeted and currently on track for release in just the first half of 2024, starting with Master Modes, the new way to pilot and operate ships
Oh.
we've been discussing since CitizenCon 2952.
Master
now, whether
modes
that's
in
every ship
PU.
or a staggered rollout of groups of vehicles depends on how work progresses, but it's a major change to the way spaceships operate in the Persistent Universe, and you can be sure that we'll update on it more when the time comes. And of course, when your ships aren't in flight, they can be stored in the newly persistent hangars that are arriving with
Persistent
freight
hangars.
elevators, freight kiosks, and the new cargo transaction system that we've shared
Super
on both
excited
ISC
for
and this
persistent
year's
hangars.
CitizenCon. Now,
First
all
half
combined, they
of
form the
next year.
next major evolution of cargo careers and will also have far-reaching, broader, higher Star Citizen experience. And then outside of vehicles and hangars, there's also a variety of FPS combat improvements coming to the first half of 2024, with improvements to reloading, the weapon wear and misfire system, scopes and dynamic crosshairs and charge and drain, and even more we'll be able to show you once we return in the new year. And then outside of strictly FPS combat, there are new player character features coming, like the updates to the EVA system, the visor and lens system, loot screens, default item interactions in the personal interaction system, and there's even new shopping and mission apps in development now. And while we're talking about apps,
Right.
the first half of 2024 is also currently scheduled to see the arrival of our new character customizer with things like tattoos, piercings, scars, and yes, Virginia, it's true, beards. Yes! And as for how many and of what kind, only Andre knows for sure, but you can bet we're gonna ask him sometime
About
around
Hulk Hogan
March. And
fucking
then, of course,
stash.
if you're in-game, there's also a little thing called Mobiglass and an awfully big thing called Star Map. They're both getting their big updates in the
I
first
told you,
half
it's like
of next
everything.
year. And have I mentioned those enormous distribution centers that'll be the new microcosm homes for every gameplay and mission feature that exists in Star Citizen, as well as the 4, 5, 6, let's just say several new and updated vehicles that are making their way to the persistent universe in just the first 6 months of 2024? I did, just now. Now you can check those off. Whew. Okay, so real talk. CIG hat back on. Now, you're probably looking at your screen and saying to yourself, what about Pyro and 4.0? Well, don't fret. The things that we just covered are those that aren't too dependent on continuing foundational tech work like server meshing. So we feel pretty confident in targeting everything that we just shared for the first 6 months. But when it comes to something as enormous as the complete Pyro system in Alpha 4.0, well, that's where the new preview channel comes into play. Now that said, Alpha 4.0 is currently targeting a summer 2024 release, but that won't mean that you have to wait until then to play it or learn more about it. That's because in 2024, we'll continue doing play tests like the one we just completed, and you'll be able to follow along with its development firsthand on the preview channel. That's the planets, moons, space stations, settlements, and outlaw lifestyle that comes within the Pyro system, but also an entire host of additional new features, content, and quality of life improvements like, fully functional jump points, the new quantum travel system, new vehicle HUD and MFD work, resource management, hacking, and much, much more, all being worked on in tandem. The preview channel will let you and
Resource
us test
management.
4.0 together while maintaining the stability of the persistent universe with all those other great additions we just discussed. And then, in the summer of 2024, two become one, and we can avoid that thing that didn't quite go the way that we'd hoped.
The holiday live stream?
And then, just because we're cheeky, there are still some things better left for you to discover on your own.
Oh, sound cut. Don't know what happened.
2024
There
is
it
shaping
It's
up to
back.
be the watershed year for Star Citizen. And if we've learned anything this year, it's that through the trials of 318 to the successes of CitizenCon and everything in between, before that and coming up next, Star Citizen is a project that continues to iterate, to evolve, and to embody an experience you simply can't find anywhere else, whether that's in the universe or within our community that makes all this possible. So thank you for helping us reach the heights that we have, and buckle up for the journey still ahead. We're in for one hell of a year. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the process of game development with you, and we'll see you all here next year.
Okay, Daddy said we have to watch to the very end, so I'm just gonna let this go.
Okay.
So if it's all right with you, I'd like to indulge myself, switch out my CIG cap, and put my backer hat on.
Oh, that's a new one.
I didn't watch this part before. What the hell was that? Oh my gosh.
How fun was that?
Yeah.
That's
So-
a lot to unpack. Why didn't we start with that? Jesus.
Because we were
Christ.
talking 322, right?
Yeah. Holy shit. Wow. So
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to mention it, because That's a lot to expect, to coming up in the next 6
That's
months.
bold.
That's 2 releases. That's 2 releases we're talking about.
So if they do that, if they meet those targets that they just laid out, that will be more content in the first 6 months than we saw all this year. Not necessarily in terms
In
of
the
tech,
past
because we got
couple of years, I would argue. Easily.
potentially, very potentially. We had big tech this year. That's huge.
A
But if
couple of
they,
things.
well,
But
we
this
had
is a lot of this is
persistent.
a lot of new tech too, with the
Well, it
new
is.
star map and the new
Well, what I
Moby
mean by
glass, and
tech,
then
right, is 2023 we got persistent entity streaming,
true.
which was like the Jesus tech that essentially builds the foundation of what Star Citizen is meant to be, right? So that it was a big year for tech. We still got a lot of cool content, right? Like salvage. We finally got fucking salvage. We've been waiting since what, 2016 for salvage.
Right.
So like there was a lot of good stuff this year, but if they deliver on the things that they just said they intended to deliver on, I think it's very bold, but that would be, yeah, bigger than the last year, maybe the last 2 years combined. That's huge.
A lot of
So
stuff.
huge.
A lot
Yeah,
of
it'll be a
stuff.
different it looks like it has the potential to be a totally different game in 6 months, and that's exciting.
Of all of the things, I'll be honest, the thing that I'm most interested in with all of that is the persistent hangars and cargo elevators. Oh my gosh. I mean,
Yeah, those are gonna be
I don't know that
awesome.
I can even say that because the new underground facilities, holy shit,
Yep.
you know?
So let's talk about both of those really quick, right? So you're talking persistent hangars and cargo elevators. There's a different facet. There's a second facet of this that I don't think people are realizing, right? In that the persistent hangars and cargo elevators are going to fundamentally change our inventory system.
Absolutely.
You won't.
And that's
You're
part
not
of
going to
why
be
I'm
able to
happy.
just. Yeah, you're not going to be able to just press I and drag and drop your gun on your back anymore. It's going to be something like, hey, we're getting ready to go out. Let's pull a ship out to the hangar, and then what do I want to take with me? Boop boop boop. Call it on your elevator, and then you get a and you got to go through and pick up your gear, pick up your armors, right? And maybe that won't be an immediately, but they've definitely said that that is their intention. That if you want to
Yeah,
pull a
well,
stack of rifles out, they're going to give you a stack of rifle boxes. You got
yeah,
to move the
but
rifles.
right. So like maybe a stack of rifle boxes, definitely grab the rifles and go put it in your armory so that you have them
Exactly.
available, right? And I'll be plenty excited if there's no such thing then as like the local inventories, if that just kind of goes away, right? So that what you have is you got to use the armories. If you want to have boxes of stuff, you got to put a box, you got to put it in the box, right? The whole idea of the local inventory, I'm kind of looking forward to going away.
Yeah. Yeah, me too, honestly.
So,
I like the idea. I daydream a lot about the future of Star Citizen and how it's going to work with our organization specifically. And I daydream a little bit. I'm just imagining, we get guys who come to the PFC armory, right? Be like, "Hey, I need a couple of gear sets," and they basically just give you like a slip of like what they need, and you're like, "Yeah, I got that for you." And you just go and you just start taking rifles off the walls and like putting them on the counter in front of them, and then some ammo crates. You just hand them some ammo crates, and I love the idea of that.
oh yeah, I'm
So
looking
maybe
forward
maybe
to
it's
it.
trivial and maybe it'll be overly complicated, but I love it and I'm very excited for it. So
Yeah,
the hangars being step one for that, huge.
yeah. No,
Idris
not
Armory. That's a you should be pinging Rev for that. That's a Rev thing for
and actually
sure.
the Kraken privateer. Shops.
Yep.
Give me my shops. All right.
Yeah,
So
I'm
anyway,
super excited for that.
that about covers our time for the night. For
Yeah.
about that's everything. So
Yeah, that was the last video of the year, but it's not the last week of the year. So we're gonna be doing more of these. We have plenty of time to talk about these things.
yeah. So I do want to just go ahead and take a moment to remind everybody we do have our event coming up Sunday. Our Jet Puff Racers, which this year is going to be on Lyria, if I'm
Yes,
remembering
it
correctly.
is.
Yep.
Lyria, yep.
Yep. And
We're
then
gonna
with
be
the Wreck
going
Raiders.
from Yeah. So we're gonna be going from Sal 5 to Sal 2, I think, on Lyria. I'll double check, but I think that's what we decided.
Yep. So
About 145 kilometers on Lyria. Bring your PTVs, be at Baijini Point. Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific. It'll be great.
Yes. So if all goes well, I'll have a really awful stream set up with lots of errors. So join for that to see exactly how I screw it up. But with I'm hoping to get our participants streaming their cockpits to me and having some aerial footage so that we can watch and flip around and see what's going on with the drivers, both above and in the cockpits of the PTVs. It is PTVs, right? Little PTVs.
Yeah, PTVs.
And then, of course, on Saturday, the day before that, we've got the Rec Regulars are putting on their rock and roll. Hopefully, that's going to happen. We had to reschedule that due to some participation issues. Hopefully, that happens. We don't have to push it again, so that's the plan.
Yep, it's currently listed for 3:30 p.m. Pacific time on Saturday.
So if
and rock and roll is cool. So really quick, rock and roll. The idea, just a quick cap so people can understand. You're dividing into teams. So far, we've got I think 3 teams planned, at least 2, I think 3. But the idea is that you take a rock out and you've got I think 2 hours to collect as many minables as you can and deliver your rock safely to a C2. And whoever has the most minables at the end of 2 hours wins.
And this is a PvP event.
Yeah, there's tanks.
So you got to keep your rocks safe because it gets blown up. You're going to have to get a new one and start all over again. If you have like 10 crystals in your rock by the time you get to the ship, good job. You may win.
If you have 1 crystal, congrats. Like it's more than most people get. Anyway, Saturday event, Sunday event. Hope to see you guys there. Otherwise, we're gonna wrap this up. Well, yeah, thank you guys for watching.
Catch you next time.